Hi, my name is Jack Willard. Our short video, based on a viewer email, is entitled Worshipping at Bob Joyce's Church. Now, I've been telling the Elvis/Bob Joyce story for a number of years. I feel that I've covered all bases. I even have a video entitled, Well, Maybe Bob Joyce is Not Elvis. Talked about a lot of different things, as I say, every angle, and I don't have plans to keep doing more videos on the topic unless there's major breaking news out of Benton or you come up with a really good email for me. Then I feel that you deserve to be heard. But there's plenty of other things I want to talk about. Some of you get upset with the title since we're more successful than we've ever been. Some of you get more upset really with the content of the video, so it's not your cup of tea. Now, I realize there are Elvis protectors, both appointed and self-appointed, but I make it clear I'm only speaking about possibilities. And as I say, there are many, many other things in the last days that I want to talk about. And I hope you'll support those topics as well. So let's check out this email from Marcus. I read part of it on our Saturday night live show, which we do at 10:30 Eastern most Saturday nights. We call it Worldwide Ramblings. And, those shows have become very popular, a lot of viewers. We stayed on for 2.5 hours because people just were so into it. Uh, well, it was really this morning because I'm doing this on a Sunday afternoon. We started on a Saturday night and we ended on a Sunday morning. I read part of this email. Here's the complete email. I'm writing to tell you of our story regarding Pastor Bob Joyce. Approximately 8 years ago, a friend told us to check out Pastor Bob Joyce. She said there were many who thought he was actually Elvis Presley. He gives his age, he gives his wife's age. He says, my mother was a huge Elvis fan, and I remember his music playing throughout my childhood. My wife also was a huge fan of his gospel music. We reviewed a YouTube channel called Michael Skutnik. I certainly remember Michael. He had a montage of Elvis information pointing to Bob Joyce. We watched and analyzed all of his information. We discovered the possibilities, off and on for about a year. Approximately a year later, sometime around 2016, this is all before I started talking about the topic. I was new to YouTube. Another YouTube channel called Elvis Presley Reborn as Pastor Bob Joyce popped up from the YouTube algorithm. We no longer could find the previous channel videos. We watched and analyzed the new channel, which had more interesting information, with some including Wallina. For us, Wallina took it over the top. There was just way too much information. There was no way it could be a coincidence that the woman Pastor Bob was married to was also the same person Elvis dated in Germany when he was stationed there as a soldier in the army. So I told my wife, pack a bag, we're headed to Benton for the weekend. Interesting note, both of those channels have been taken down. We arrived on a Saturday to make sure we knew where the church was located. We were met by a pretty large gentleman asking why we were there. I explained we were fans of Pastor Bob's, I like the word fans, Pastor Bob's ministry, and were wanting to attend. He then seemed fine and told us the times for the service the next day and that we should show up at about 30 minutes or so early if we wanted a seat. The next morning we arrived early with a number of people waiting outside the church, waiting for the church building to open. As we went through the front door, the large man was standing in front of Pastor Bob and greeted us. Pastor Bob then greeted us, and we took our seats. There are actually 2 to 3 men hanging pretty close to Bob before and after the service. The first thing that got my attention in the service, as the service commenced, was the fact that there were visitors from all over the country. You're welcome. And even outside the country at the small country church in Arkansas. I knew from my experience in ministry that this was very unusual. The next thing I noticed was how well the small building was acoustically designed. The sanctuary had been designed to improve the sound. It was better sound than I had ever heard before at such a small church. As if someone who truly understood music had personally designed it. Pastor Bob got around before service to shake many visitors' hands and was always very welcoming. The service commenced with some singing of older hymns and choruses that dated back several decades. My wife told me if he sings the song, "He Touched Me," she would know for sure. Sure enough, he did sing it that day. Then Pastor Bob got up to preach. His manner of preaching was very extemporaneous, getting out from behind the pulpit throughout the majority of the time during the message. He really seemed to relish the opportunity to minister to a smaller crowd and would address them throughout the message. After the service, I asked my wife how sure she was that that was Elvis we had just met. She said 100%. We ended up going to visit Household of Faith 6 times over the next few years. There are many stories I could tell you of situations we experienced over those 6 visits. To this day, no one has to convince us that Pastor Bob is the person who was formerly known throughout the world as Elvis Presley. We don't believe. We know. A few nuggets. My wife wanted to be sure Willina was who we thought her to be. With the younger picture of Willina, you can see a mole in front of her left ear. Whenever we visited the church, she came over to shake our hands. And sure enough, the mole was exactly as it was in the younger pictures. One time after service, I was standing around waiting to speak with Pastor Bob, as I made a habit of doing every time we visited. There was a woman in the church who was possibly a member who came up to me. I was standing only a couple of feet to the side of him while I was waiting. She exclaimed more loudly than he liked, "Pastor Bob, did you know some people are trying to get Elvis on the ballot in Arkansas?" When she said this, he looked over at me and then back to her, and he just tried to blow her off. She didn't get why he was trying to quiet her down. So once again, she exclaimed the same thing. They are trying to get Elvis on the voting ballot. For those who think he is too young to be Elvis, I have worked in health care with the elderly for over 30 years. It is not that unusual to find individuals in their late 80s or 90s who are still very functional and active. When you get up real close to Bob, you can see that he is older than his face appears. The areas of the chest, chin, and hands show it. Also, the way he walks shows some limited function due to age. Well, I could go on, but I just thought I would drop you a little personal, first hand information. Sincerely, Marcus. That is one of the best letters talking about the household of faith experience that I've ever received. And I don't have a lot to add to it. I've never been to the church. Um, but I do get similar letters. They're not usually as long and as well written as that, not as descriptive. So there you go. You know, I have so many people saying so many different things, and it's hard to keep check at this point. We're over 5,000 subscribers now, and we have videos that are hitting 100,000, and I am very appreciative of that. I really am. But I'm looking to talk about other things. I hope you'll support those topics as well. And in the live shows, we're never going to ban the topic. If I have something important to say on your favorite topic, I will. Um, if there's breaking news out of Benton, I will. But I'm not trying to, as they say, beat a dead horse. Isn't that a funny choice of words? So there you are from Marcus. I thank you very much for that letter. My personal email is jackthefairguy, F-A-I-R, jackthefairguy at gmail.com. There are people out there, as I say, that come on with an agenda, the Elvis protectors, whether they be appointed or self-appointed. And, if they're respectful, I keep the comments in. If they're just nasty, I don't like to block people from the channel. You're welcome to disagree. Some people disagree and they hide it for years. And then I finally find out, wait a minute, there's something going on here. You could just be honest. It's fine to tell me you don't feel he is Elvis Presley. It's fine with me. I'm speaking about possibilities. There are so many coincidences. This is such an amazing story. Even if all my assumptions are wrong, it is still a great story. Many say that Pastor Bob Joyce is writing a book. Some say he has talked about that from the pulpit. I did not see that sermon. Some say he won't release it. Well, he'll have them release it after he passes on. I hope that's not true. That would be a mistake. 2024, is something big going to happen? I kind of feel it in my bones.